Hello students. Students, previously in this chapter, we had started this topic, a new topic which is known as growth hormones. We started studying about growth hormones where we studied that growth hormones are also known as plant growth regulators, that is PGR, or they are also known as phytohormones. Now, these are the hormones that are used for the regulation of the growth of the plant. So that is how we can say that they are known as plant growth regulators. Now they are simple small sized compounds, and with this growth hormones we can say that their site of production and the site where its effect is seen are different. So we can say that their site of production and their site of effect, it can be different. Now these phytohormones are divided into two categories. There can be growth promoter, or they can also be called as growth inhibitor. Now these are the two categories in which it is divided. Now in total we are going to study about 5 growth hormones or 5 plant growth regulators, and out of these 5 plant growth regulators, 3 of them are being put into this category of plant growth promoters, whereas one is in the category of growth inhibitor. Okay, we'll be studying auxin, gibberellic acid, and cytokinins as growth promoters. Now, these 3 growth hormones are known as pure promoters. That means they only promote the growth of the plant. Whereas abscisic acid, it is considered to be pure inhibitor. That means it will only inhibit the growth of the plant. Now, these are the 4 growth hormones. There is one more which is known as ethylene. So this is the 5th one. Now ethylene is taken as a common example for both. It can be growth promoter, it can be growth inhibitor. So depending on the situation, ethylene works as any of the two. It can work as the growth promoter hormone, or it can also work as growth inhibitor hormone. So it is taken as a common example for both. Now these phytohormones have various compositions. So if it has indole compound as its derivative, the example that we take is of auxin or IAA. IAA stands for indole acetic acid. So auxins, they have indole compound as their derivative, whereas cytokinins, they have purine derivatives. That means they are derived from the nitrogen base. Then abscisic acid, they have carotenoid as their derivative. Gibberellic acid have terpene derivatives, and ethylenes are gaseous in nature. So ethylene is the only growth hormone which is gaseous in nature. Now we had started studying about auxin. Okay, this is the first growth hormone that we studied. So auxin, it was observed by Charles Darwin and his son Francis Darwin, and they observed this hormone into the coleoptile of the canary grass. And how did they observe it? So what did they observe? They observed when the coleoptile of this canary grass was exposed to unilateral light. That means the light coming from one direction. This showed the bending of this coleoptile towards the source of light. And this observation of theirs, it led to a conclusion that coleoptile has some chemical that perceives light. Okay. Later on, it was discovered by Wendt. So it was only observed by Charles Darwin and his son Francis Darwin that something like this chemical, it exists. But later on it was discovered. Wendt was the scientist who actually discovered auxin. So he discovered and isolated auxin. He isolated it from the seedling of Avena grass, which is scientifically known as Avena sativa, or it is commonly known as oats. So he observed the same thing, that when the coleoptile of this Avena grass, it was exposed to this unilateral source of light, it showed bending towards this source of light. So he observed the same thing. But to actually prove his discovery and to prove his observation, he performed an experiment. So what did he actually do? He took these Avena coleoptiles and he decapitated them. Okay. So first what did he do? He took the Avena coleoptile and he decapitated them. Then the tips of this coleoptile which he had decapitated, he placed these tips on the agar block. Okay, now what is agar block? Agar block is a gelatinous substance which is made up of different nutrition. Now after some times what actually happened was that all the chemical or all the oxygen from the tip of that coleoptile, it was diffused into the agar block. Okay, now later on what did he do? Now when this oxygen was diffused into the agar block, he took the agar block which was having this diffused oxygen and he actually placed it on the decapitated stump of the coleoptile. Now after some times what did he observe? He observed the same thing, that this coleoptile was again bending towards the source of light. And this observation led to a conclusion that when the tip of the coleoptile was placed on the agar block, all the chemical, that all the oxygen, it got diffused into this agar, and when the same agar was placed on the decapitated coleoptile, it showed the same response that was observed previously. So later on, after this experiment, after the success of this experiment, he isolated this oxygen from the seed of Avena and he gave the name oxygen. Now why did he give the name oxygen? Because oxygen means to grow, and as this hormone is a growth promoter, so he named it as oxygen. Now further, we also studied about the certain terms that we need to understand when we are studying oxygen. So there are two types of oxygen. Okay, first thing that we studied was that it is a derivative of indole compound, and there are two types of oxygens. One is the natural oxygen, that is IAA, and IBA, that is indole acetic acid and indole butyric acid. Now these two are found in plants in normal condition. The synthetic one, that is NAA or 2,4-D or 2,4,5-T, these are the synthetic oxygen, that is they are prepared chemically. Now there is something called as free oxygen. Now the oxygens which are easily isolated and they are easily extracted from the plants are known as free oxygen. And on the other hand, there is bound oxygen. So bound oxygens are the oxygens which are not easily extracted, and if we want to extract these bound oxygens, we need to use organic solvent. So the extraction process of this bound oxygen, it needs organic solvent. Then there is something called as antioxidants. Now the chemicals that stops or that inhibit the action of oxygen, they are known as antioxidant. That means if oxygen, it plays a role of promoting the growth of the plant, there will be some other chemical which will work in an opposite direction. That means it will stop or it will inhibit the growth of the plant, and such chemicals are known as antioxidants. Now we also studied about the functions of oxygen. Before that, we need to know the site of its synthesis. So they are synthesized in the apical meristem. Okay, so let us study the function of oxygen. The first one is, as it is a growth promoter, the first function is that it promotes cell division. The second function is it initiates the lateral root formation. Okay, so the lateral root formation is initiated by oxygens. Then it shows apical dominance. Now this is something very important. What is apical dominance? It means as soon as the tip of the stem or a bud is functional, that means the tip of any plant, if it is functional, or the bud of any plant, it is functional, it will prevent or it will stop the growth of lateral bud. That means the apical bud or the apical tip, apical meristem, it will dominate over the lateral bud or the lateral growth. So as and when the apical meristem or the apical bud is present, it will not let the lateral bud or the lateral growth take place. And that is how we see that the plant in the initial stages of plant growth, we see that the plant grow in height first. After they attain a certain level of height, then the lateral branches grow. Okay, this is nothing but due to the auxin present in the apical meristem. Then the next function is that it promotes flowering in pineapple. It also induces parthenocarpy in tomatoes. What is parthenocarpy? Parthenocarpy is formation of fruit without fertilization taking place. So that is parthenocarpy, which is induced by auxins in tomatoes. Then it also prevents leaf fall or fruit fall. That means it prevents the premature falling of young leaves or unripened fruit. So it is again because of auxin. Then it promotes abscission of old leaves and ripened fruits. So it works in both direction. When the leaf or the fruit are premature, that means if the fruit is raw on the tree, that means it is not ripened, and if the leaf is small and young, it will prevent the fall of these leaves and fruits. But once the leaves have turned old and the fruit has ripened, the same auxin will promote its abscission. Okay, so it works in both direction. Then it also helps in xylem differentiation. So these are the functions of auxin. We also studied about the application. So depending on these functions, we studied about the applications. The first application is it helps in the promotion of, or it promotes the cell division. Okay, and this as it promotes cell division, it can be applied for callus formation in tissue culture. So if this auxin is used in tissue culture, it will be applicable for the formation of callus. Okay, so it is used in tissue culture technique. Then stem cutting can be dipped into auxin solution for the growth of lateral roots. So when we do artificial propagation or artificial vegetative propagation by various means, there is one propagation which is called as stem cutting. Now during the stem cutting, if we apply the auxin solution on the base of the stem, this will actually promote the growth of lateral roots. So this can also be applicable for artificial vegetative propagation. Then there is one interesting application. Now the synthetic auxin, that is 2,4-D and 2,4,5-T, they are used as weedicides. So what they actually do is they will kill the unwanted weeds growing around. So if suppose you have a lawn with grass and there are certain weeds that are grown, okay, the unwanted weeds that are grown which you do not want. So what these synthetic auxin they do, they will actually kill these weeds, but they kill only the dicot weeds. They do not cause any harm or any damage to the monocots. So what will happen if you have a lawn with grass? What will happen? The unwanted dicot weeds will be killed and there will be no damage or no injuries caused to the monocots, that are the grass. So 2,4,5-D and 2,4,5-T, they are used as weedicides, but they will only kill the dicot weeds. Okay. The next application is it is actually used for promoting the lateral branching. And this lateral branching, it is very much useful for farmers to grow hedges. Okay, so as we know, the function of hedge is to actually make a barrier. Okay, hedges are used as barrier. We have seen hedges in gardens and we have seen it in farms. So suppose if this is the farm, this is the hedge. Now this acts as a barrier so that it can actually restrict the entry of unwanted animals into the field. So what do farmers do? They cut the tip of these stems. Okay, so as they cut the apical meristem, now if the apical meristem is cut, there will be no apical dominance, and if there is no apical dominance, the lateral branches will be grown. So as the lateral branches grows, these hedges, they become more dense. So this is one very great function which is used by the farmers to grow hedges dense. Then next function is it is used for bonsai making. Now what are bonsais? These are bonsais. Bonsais are miniature forms of big trees, okay, or big plants rather. So what is actually done over here? The apical meristem or the apical buds are actually cut time to time of these plants, and as the apical meristem is cut, only the lateral branches they the lateral branches are promoted, because of which this miniature form of plants are formed. So this is the bonsai. So it is used in this bonsai making, and it is also used to obtain seedless fruits. Okay, so it is used for obtaining these seedless fruits, which is commercially very profitable. Now this was about auxin that we studied previously. In this part we are going to start with a new growth hormone, or the new phytohormone, which is known as gibberellin. So gibberellin, as we have studied previously, they are derivatives of terpene. Now, how was this gibberellin discovered? So it was discovered in Japan when some farmers in Japan, they observed that few rice seedlings, they grew exceptionally tall. Okay, so they grew exceptionally tall than the normal rice plant. Okay, so the height of normal rice plant, it is about 4 to 5 or 5 to 6 feet, whereas these seedlings that the farmers had observed that grew exceptionally tall was growing up to 15, or you can say 10 to 15 feet tall, which was not very common. So as they grew very tall and they fall on the ground, why did they just fell flat on the ground? Because as we know that rice crop, they are very thin, and because they are very thin and they were growing very tall, the base couldn't support it. So as the base went weak and the base was not able to support this long growing seedling of rice, all the crops were falling flat on the ground. And as the farmers observed this, they gave it a term as Bacana disease. Now, what is Bacana disease? Bacana in Japanese term, it means foolish. So they termed it as a foolish seedling disease, or the Bacana disease. Okay. Later on, there was this scientist whose name was Kurosawa. So he observed these rice seedlings, and he found out that these seedlings were infected by a fungus which was making these seedlings grow exceptionally tall. And the name of this fungus, the scientific name of this fungus was Gibberella fujikori. Okay, so it was because of this fungus Gibberella fujikori, these rice seedlings were growing tall. And the active chemical that was found in this Gibberella fujikori was gibberellin, and later on it was found to be gibberellic acid. So because of this active chemical as gibberellin or gibberellic acid, the seedlings of the rice was growing tall. So later on, this gibberellic acid was isolated. It was observed, then later on it was isolated, and hundreds of these gibberellic acid were isolated. Now, out of hundreds of these gibberellic acid, there was this one GA3, which was first observed and first isolated, and it was studied the maximum. That is, the growth of this GA3 was studied maximum. So that is how it is written. So it is written as GA1, GA2, GA3, GA4, and so on. So there are hundreds of gibberellic acid till present date that are isolated. Now, let us study about the functions of this gibberellic acid. So as we know that gibberellic acid is also a growth promoter. So its first function is that it promotes the elongation of stem. Okay, so it promotes axis elongation. Then it is also used to promote the malting process. We'll see it how. Then it delays senescence. That means senescence is aging in plants. So what gibberellic acid does, it will delay this aging of plant. As it is a growth promoter, so of course it will delay the aging of plants. Then the next function is it increases the seed maturity. Okay. and it also causes bolting. Now what is bolting? Bolting is internodal elongation, and this bolting, it is caused in the rosette plants. Now what are rosette plants? Rosette plants, the examples that we can take for these rosette plants are beetroot and cabbage. So what actually happens? These rosette plants have very short and compact internodes. Okay, so the leaves of the rosette plants are arranged in this manner. Okay, and these leaves are attached to the nodes. Okay, now each node there are leaves attached, and in between the two nodes there is this internode, and this distance between the two nodes, that is distance between the internode, it is very short and it is very compact. Okay, so what actually gibberellic acid does, it elongates this internodal distance, that is known as bolting. So let us see the applications of gibberellic acid based on these functions. The first one is promotes stem elongation, which is used for the elongation of grapes. Okay, now usually in natural condition, if the grapes are growing, the grapes are seen to be growing very close and compactly to each other. The fruit grows very compactly in a very compact manner. Now when they grow in a very compact manner, it actually results into damage of these fruits. Okay, because they grow in a very compact manner, the fruits, they get damaged. So if gibberellic acid is applied to the grape crop, what actually happens is elongation of grape takes place, and this restricts or this stops the damages of fruit, because now they grow very, it at a particular distance from each other. There is certain gap between them that will not let these fruits to be damaged. Okay, so this is one application, that it promotes stem elongation. The next one is to increase the height of sugarcane. Okay, so as the height of sugarcane increases, there is more sugar content, which is again commercially very profitable for farmers. So this is one application, that it increases the height of the sugar cane. Then the third application is to increase the length of the apple fruit. Just as it elongates the grape plant, the stem of the grape plant, now it also increases the length of the apple fruit, which is again commercially very profitable. It promotes malting process. Okay, now when we say it promotes malting process, therefore it can be used in various brewing industries for production of various alcoholic beverages. So that is how it is used in as a malting process. Then it is used on the fruit. So using gibberellic fruits can be left on the plant for longer period of time, as it delays aging. So as we have studied further in the function, that it delays aging of the plant, the premature aging of the plant. So as it delays the premature aging of the plant, the fruits can be, if the fruits are treated with gibberellin, it can be left on the plant for longer period of time. Then the next application is it promotes seed germination, and it also helps, or it also causes bolting. So this is what is bolting. This is the beetroot crop, where we see that the stem or the internodal, there is a distance between their internodes, and so the leaves are growing taller. Okay, it is not growing in a very compact manner, they are growing taller. So this was about gibberellic acid. Next, in the next lecture, we'll be studying about the other growth hormones, that is cytokinin, ethylene and abscisic acid.